are very strong supportively and emotionally, and they can rely on them. So if that's up there, and then your social is a little bit up there, because Dr. Perkins used to be our director of psychological health, and one of the things she stated is if you have 7 points of contact that you can call anytime that you trust to talk to, that's a very healthy social support. And so if you got a big family with that type of support, you can gain a lot of that 7 people. Plus, you're able to be taught how to relate to others and how to establish relationships that are meaningful. And that's a lot of what we see is that weak relationships is what's causing a lot of the other distress.
And that would be true, not just military, but I mean, that's with any of us.
Across the board. That's why you see, like in 2000, starting in 2009, but more so 2010, 11, they couldn't really say that being deployed is you're automatically greater risk of suicide. Because we had a lot, like in 2009, that were never deployed.
The thing with the physical injuries, you have to return home from a deployment, and then you're cut off from a lot of your social supports, and then your unit. You've left your unit, so your unit is no longer there to provide support to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get you out of the field and get you on a flight home, and then you end up in a VA hospital or a military hospital somewhere. But then it's all new people again, and you don't have that strong bond that you do when you're in a deployed area. And you might not even have that connection with your family right away. I mean, they might fly in for a weekend, but they can't, if they've got jobs and that, they can't stay with you for the whole recovery, rehab and all that. So they might see you on the weekends, or depending on how far away they are. So you've got fragmented support systems there, and that's where I think you were talking earlier about having the systems approach and having more and more resilience, so that when the soldier is home with a physical injury, she's got more teams coming at and providing the chaplain support, the spiritual support, substitute for family because you're in a hospital setting, maybe even some emotional support there. I see with a lot of the military now, they're trying to teach meditation and some other things to help calm the mind that's going through reentry, and this trauma of coming back from a extremely violent theater back into civilian life, or at least somewhere in the States here that they're going to be trying to get full recovery physically and all that.
Yeah, and I think the key, which I was kind of getting to through all this and going through a system of reintegration, is not only all the components, but how do you connect one piece to the other? Right. And the only way that we can really do that is advocacy, support.
Sorry, is what?
Advocacy, having an advocate. And that way, that person doesn't get forgotten. And it's much more than just OIF, the veterans that we have now. Michigan has over 700,000 veterans. And that's not common thing. So, how do we do that being only a National Guard force that has the infrastructure, but we concentrate on National Guard. So
I'm sorry, you concentrate on that?
National Guard.
Right.
But you have all these other services and all these other veterans from different wars that are still going through it. Like Vietnam, was 3 times the amount of suicides that happened in actual combat.
Absolutely, yes.
And this war, they know it's gonna be the same way.
Mhm.
And,
If not higher.
yeah, if not higher, because the family support structure, the other things, the economy, just a lot of compounding.
Loss of job, loss of home, loss of family, a lot of losses.
Yeah. And without having that advocate and that support to build each other up, that sense of purpose, then, yeah, they soon will kind of disconnect, isolate themselves, which is one of the symptoms. And you have a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness that you just can't get over.
And the advocates, in my point of view, would be, it would have to be somebody that has frankly gotten through it and has been in the military. I don't think that, well, I don't think somebody that's not been in the military can grasp the vastness in that's going on within an individual that is hurting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Larry.
They have a different perspective.
Right.
But I used to struggle with that too, because it's like, I was in substance abuse for a little while. And does that mean I have to be struggling with my own sobriety to work with somebody that is, struggling with drugs or alcohol, whatever it is? And I guess the overall answer is no, you don't have to be. It does give you insight into the struggles that one is going through, and can help immensely to identify with the demons that that person is struggling with. But do they actually have to be? Because they hire people that have never been in the military, at the VA, to work with veterans. But I like the advocacy of having veterans that, I shut it off. I'm sorry, I got a robocall. Oh, that's a survey.
Yeah, and we,
There's a parallelism between, in mental health, that we have peers who have experienced psychological problems helping other people with the same philosophy that if you haven't experienced it. But we, in the mental health, the whole field of mental health, we say there are special connections that people have with peers that have gone through the similar experiences, whether it's state hospitals or state institutions or whatever. But there's also, and there's also a role for people who maybe are just a psychologist who has never experienced that, but they can bring extra dimension. So it's not really, we don't say either or, it has to be someone that is a peer or not. We see them as part of the whole picture of helping, maybe with the social area more, or, the psychological would be a psychologist, the spirituality, and ideally some would be crossovers into a psychologist who also has it was a chaplain or, someone else. So,
To the team approach.
It's a team approach, but I think what happens is that for many years, the stigma devalued people's personal experiences with issues, and therefore was not looked as can be a helper. In fact, in universities, if you put down that you had mental health problems, you were not accepted to a PhD program. And so there were some stigmas within that. It's moving in the other direction. There's a special role for people who have that more experience.
And that's the way it should be, I think, because, I think you were mentioning the advocate. In the VA programs, we find that because the VA is such a bureaucracy and the systems are so complex, it's hard for the average veteran to just get the services that they're entitled to. And each of the VFWs, the AMVETS, the Disabled American Vets, Vietnam Veterans, all of these fraternal organizations have vet reps that are assigned specifically to help returning veterans get the entitlements that they are.
And it's twofold.
Yeah.
It helps the helper, helps the healthy as they're helping themselves.
Yeah, and that's a good thing with peer-to-peer that we're trying to build, but at the same time, everything has its role. And I think if there's a connection, like I'll get into more the cooperation, the collaboration that needs to be there, I think we could carry people through that system of care. But until that happens, we don't. And now